The who's, what's, where's, and why's of December holiday have been a hot topic of discussion in the Deltarune community. We basically just went a whole chapter without her being mentioned at all. So the question on everyone's mind is, what's up with her? Like, most people think she's the knight, sure, whatever, but what is her deal? Like, who is she? We've discussed these topics endlessly for years, and really we still lack a concrete answer. This girl hasn't spoken a single time in game, even if she is the knight.
Well, in game, no, she hasn't spoken, but we do have someone so deep in the game that we can't see them just yet. That's probably her, right?
Oh yeah, whatever, I guess. Sure, let's lock all our meaningful characterization behind data mining. Wow, that's so avant-garde. Bravo, Mr. Fox, you've really outdone yourself. Let's see. Oh, it's so dark here. Oh, I don't know if I'm awake or dreaming. Oh, the scratching, it's like the, you digging in the code. Oh, it's so clever. This one's weird. Can you read it, please?
I do have one thing, though, and that's memories. Memories of my life. Maybe that's all I am at this point. A collection of memories. Then all I can do is not forget, right? Don't forget. I just have to keep telling myself that.
Maybe that's all I am at this point. A collection of memory. Don't forget. This is very, very interesting. Spoilers for the Backrooms movie. That's related. This is important. Within the Backrooms series, there are these beings called still lives. They are things in the Backrooms that are these humanoid entities that are created by the vague memories of people. Like all things in the Backrooms are loose memories, pictures in the back of your mind, missing their fine details. In the Backrooms movie, there's a character named Clark who runs a furniture store named Captain Clark's Ottoman Empire, in which he takes on the persona of the titular Captain Clark for the store's marketing and whatnot. Because of these commercials and their reach in the local area, a lot of people who know Clark only know him as Captain Clark. And that memory is reflected in the Backrooms as his still life, which greatly resembles that persona, but a tall, lanky, and sad, because he's a sad man. Seeing this really got me thinking about December holiday and the roaring night. So, I'm Dawn, and this is Stan, and together we are Danger After Dawn. Today I want to dive into all this new roaring night theory that might solve every issue we have with Death Knight while still allowing Death Knight to be true, as well as answering other specifics about the night.
Welcome to the still life theory, where we will argue that deaths and the night are somewhat separate, but the night is formed by the lost memories of December shared by everyone in hometown. Here we go! Like and subscribe! Yay!
For a long time, people have debated on the Roaring Knight's identity. I mean, just recently, we got a whole new night theory that just cropped up, which I certainly have opinions on. Even with that theory, I feel Death Knight still stands high above pretty much every other knight candidate as the widely agreed most reasonable choice.
But it still has its own holes that are hard to explain. Like, what are the details of Carol's plan if Des is already working with her in some way as the Roaring Knights? Why does Des appear to be this voice in the code that's continuously giving us new dialogue if she's prancing around the town as the knight? Little questions that muddy the waters a bit. And that's not even mentioning to her cluelessness on how the knight even works biologically. Sure, we can say it's Titan-like, but nothing in-game tells us how a lightner could become a Titan-like creature. So we're left stumped, and just expecting Deltarune will answer it later. It's a good thing we're here, so you don't have to do that.
What we are suggesting is that the solution to all of this is that the Roaring Night is essentially the still life of December holiday, a being made of memories of her. Allow us to explain.
The first thing we're going to look at is the shadow crystals. After the knight's fight, Susie manages to successfully chip off a chunk of the knight's sword, leaving behind a shadow crystal and a black shard. These two objects seem to be made of the same thing, with them both being described as glass. The difference between them is that the shard is opaque, while the crystal is completely transparent. I think it's reasonable to assume the knight's entire body is made out of this stuff, since the sword looks exactly the same as them. The black shards and shadow crystals are likely made of a similar substance, since they are both described as types of glass. While we don't know what exactly black shards are made of yet, we do know what shadow crystals are made of.
In Chapter 5, Sham explains that shadow crystals are formed from the abandoned dreams of Lightners, as many may have suspected. Sham claims that when a strong attachment is formed, the dream is gripped tightly and then broken off. Shadow crystals are what remain, like little pieces of memory scattered around. Now, plenty of people have posited the idea that Des made her own Roaring Knight body out of her own monsterings, but I've always had a bit of an issue with that, because shadow crystals seem to be remarkably rare. We're only given the opportunity to collect 5 of them with no room for error, despite the conditions to manifest them not seeming that complicated. I'm sure Des has plenty of lost aspirations, but I don't think that's enough to create that dense coat of armor. This is where the Backrooms part comes in. You see, as we said before, Captain Clark exists because people saw Clark in commercials as his Captain Clark persona, and I think the same applies for the people of Hometown and December. When Des disappeared and all hope was lost, everyone's dreams of having her brought home to safety were lost. Notice how no one in Hometown really talks about Des, and then when they do, it's usually pretty casual. And if it's been so long that since she's been missing, that there's really no expectation she'll ever come back. All those dreams lost, combining with December's own dreams to create the Roaring Knight.
This could also explain something else about the knight too. Its movements are just oozing with coolness and attitude. It moves with grace. Its sword looks a bit like a baseball bat, and it literally transforms into a baseball. The Roaring Knight is decorated, not really in December's actual personality, but her iconography. Throughout the entire game, people talk about Des's hobbies like baseball, ice skating, and music. They describe her as a cool, rebellious person who is always seeking new experiences. Noelle's room in Queen's Mansion calls to December by replacing the moon with a literal baseball. The Roaring Knight is the epitome of everything everyone thought about Des, mixed together and averaged out into her most apparent traits and hobbies. It carries all of those traits without any real voice of its own. It is December reduced to a literal memory.
We've seen plenty of examples of how important people's perception of reality is to Deltarune as a whole. Dark worlds are patterned after the people who create them, and there are darkness who can be created by the memories of lost loved ones, which we see through Gerson. The entirety of Chapter 5's Dark World centers around the idea of clinging onto the past and fantasy. Rouse describes Titans as being the fear of the dark, the bump in the night, the shadow in the backside of our minds. The night already shows many visual similarities with the Titan enemies, and Rouse is over here describing Titans too as a manifestation of part of our minds. The Roaring Knight absolutely has strong ties with memory, perception, and darkness. Now, we do have one question. Since we're saying that the Knight is more Darkener than Lightner, does it making Dark Fountain still make sense? To be honest, I'm not sure. It could be possible that December herself is still inside the Roaring Knight, and I feel like that's probably a good bet. But it was never really clarified if Gerson or the flowers can or can't make dark fountains in their dark worlds. But whatever the case, this is the major question we have left. But the Knight being a Shadow Crystal construct does explain pretty much every other question about Death Knight.
Girl working with the Knight while still likely trying to fight Des is easily explained by the Knight not really being Des. Some of her is in there, but it's mostly a monster of memory, taking her image from lost dreams of others. Des being in the unused voice of the code, while also being somewhat stuck in the Knight's opaque body, makes sense if she's not really the one in control here. Kind of like a Chris situation. She's being puppeted by darkness. Or she's simply totally lost, and the Knight is separate from her. Whichever one you like more.
You could compare it to a masked man situation from Mother 3. The real her is in there somewhere, but the darkness and all those lost dreams have a stranglehold on her mind.
While we still can't say for sure how the unused dialogue will become relevant in-game, it is certainly notable that in their most recent monologue, they say that all they have left is their memories. They even call back to one of the game's most important lines. Don't forget. This has to be significant.
If you've ever felt like Des doesn't have any characterization or she doesn't really have a strong enough focus in Deltarune, this is why. A Roaring Knight is not her. The people of Hometown remember her, but they fear acknowledging who she actually was in the aftermath of what happened. The lack of strong focus on who Des is as a person is probably intentional. Des has been reduced to her actions, her hobbies, and her attitude. She is nothing but a hazy memory. I guess that's it. Not a super complicated theory, but mostly just building on the existing Death Knight theory. So yeah, that's it. Like, subscribe, go watch your other stuff.
I was like, yay.
Go do that.